Boostly Podcast. We're in season 8, episode 20. And today was probably one of my most favorite podcast interviews to date. Noah Kagan from the Sumo Group. He's got AppSumo, King Sumo, SendFox, and I reached out to him a couple of weeks ago to say if he fancied doing this live video with me. He was kind enough to get back and say, yep, we'll do it. So that's what we did tonight.
The short of it, man, my life and career has been about evangelizing and marketing. And so kind of followed my interest to join different companies, like working at Facebook was one of the first people, and kind of explored a lot of curiosity around like, what products do I like? What products are coming up? And, you know, I built a company with a lot of great people called AppSumo.com, which is the #1 site for software deals. So if anyone's looking to start a business online or already running an online business, go sign up for our free newsletter.
If you could do me a big favor, just to start off with, just explain how SendFox is different to MailChimp and what the sort of similarities and what SendFox is and why what it is, why it's being created, and just sort of give people an idea. Because the reason why I asked is that this week we've been talking about email marketing. We've been talking about it quite a lot because so many people don't do it, and we've always had MailChimp, but MailChimp have changed a lot recently. A lot of people are sort of looking for alternatives. So yeah, I thought it'd be a nice place just to quickly start, have a little chat about SendFox.
The reason that email marketing is so important, so I'm gonna tie this in, is that if you have an Airbnb and you've had guests over a period of time, email marketing is a great way in general to either get them back or potentially sell them other things. So for right now, if you're an Airbnb and you don't have you're empty, wouldn't it be nice if you could communicate directly with your past customers to say, hey, do you want to pre-buy for the future? Or B, maybe you can actually offer them something else. Is there a physical product? Is there a food? Is there another service that you can recommend? And so email marketing, what I found is, and I've been doing internet business world for 20 years, and I found that this is the only place and only way that you can communicate at scale with your audience. And so we've built with AppSumo and an 8-figure business just off of email. And so for me, I was on MailChimp just like you, and I'm paying, $300, $400, $500 a month. And it took me like an hour to create every email. And so I think the best way to run a business, the best way to run an Airbnb is just make the Airbnb the one you'd want to go to. And so we got tired of using MailChimp. And so we said, well, what if we could just build it ourselves? And that's what's become SendFox. So the things that matter to us right now is that I don't want it to be very expensive. So right now it's free to start or one-time payment of $50 forever. And 2, what we're really trying to focus on is just encouraging people to communicate with their audience weekly. So how do we make a tool that makes it very easy for you to create content or material so that you're communicating with your customers or potential customers regularly? I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of people miss out on. If you have an Airbnb, maybe they're not visiting you weekly, so maybe monthly makes more sense. But I think, what I've been saying a lot lately and what I think people need to think about is attention is worth more than money. Attention is worth more than money.
I first came across your tactics and tips. I can't remember if it was a YouTube or a podcast or a blog post, but there was one that you spoke about. It was all about how to speed up your computer. And I was saying before we went live that one of my favorite productivity tips that I've ever picked up is from yourself, because it was as simple as speeding up that mouse cursor on your MacBook. It's so simple to do. So many people don't do it. And, by simply doing that, I was able to 2x the productivity because things were able to move around quicker. Now, with yourself, have you always been curious about productivity and like hacking things and just making things go quicker, smoother, faster for yourself? And the second sort of question is, apart from the mouse cursor trick, what other like sort of little tips can you share and pass on to people that may not be aware of it?
2 nights ago, we were doing this dating game. It's called We Are Not Strangers. And it's a card game where you and your wife ask different questions. And so one of the questions she asked me, Mark, was, what do my shoes say about me? And she's like, well, you don't like tying your shoelaces. And I was like, what do you mean I don't like tying my shoelaces? And so she's like, yeah, you never tie your shoelaces. And so what I realized is that ever since I was a little kid, I've been really into efficiency. So like one of my favorite things in elementary school was the hypotenuse. It was the shortest distance between 2 points. I was fascinated with like how to get to school the fastest way. And it's something I've reflected on in my life. And so, yeah, I think it's just more efficiency. It doesn't mean, just because you're efficient doesn't mean you're effective, which is a very important thing in business. Efficiency and effectiveness. It's like, are you going very fast while you're, this is a Gary Halbert quote, which I love, which was, it's not great to be going very fast on a canoe up the wrong stream. So you don't want to be going fast up the wrong stream. But for me, it's been very important to be going fast and trying to be effective. So yeah, I think there's a lot of productivity stuff that, people are like, how do I make more money? How do I get more done in life? And if you kind of start looking at where am I spending the majority of my time and how do I optimize that, that trickles down so that it's a huge multiplier effect. And so I can go through, do you want some examples of probably the top top 5 things that everyone should do. One of the number one thing for me is learning how to type faster. So most people, if they're not typing probably around 100 words a minute, then you're going to be as less efficient on everything else you're going to be do subsequently. I can tell you about apps, and I can tell you about, our business is based on promoting tools, but you can't even use the tools, then you're taking too long. So 2 ways to go improve it. One is called keybr.com, keybr.com. And the second one is Ratatype, RATA type.com. Those are the 2 places totally free that I'd recommend people going and learning how to get to at least, if you're not at 80, you should be focused on getting to 80 and get out. Don't do that chicken typing. Number 2 is your trackpad. I think that's something that you were talking about earlier, is that if you're using a Mac, you go to System Preferences, click on Trackpad, and then the point and click section, make your tracking speed the fastest. This is the interesting thing. Whenever I use someone else's computer now, I can always be like, dude, it's so slow. Like, what, are you trying to do anything today? Or are you just like giving up hope? So that's number 2. Number 3 is a stupid one because people may not realize this stuff, but your computer and your phone, or it's not about necessarily that, but wherever you're spending the majority of your time. If you're on an old phone, if you're on an old iPad, if you're on an old tablet, and it takes a long time for it to load, times how long it takes to load, times every day, times the whole year. So again, what I'm really trying people to think about is think about where you're spending the most of your day. If most of your day is on a computer, get a faster one. If most of your day is using some certain software, learn the key.
So many people are looking at podcasts. And what would your advice would be maybe to, say, a hospitality owner right now, a bed and breakfast owner, small hotel owner, rental owner, who would be potentially thinking about maybe looking at a podcast? Is there any super quick ways that you've seen that someone could get started? Do you think now more than ever, because like we're recording this on Zoom, everybody's doing Zoom, the quality of the video, people are just putting quantity out instead of quality, which is maybe flip of what it was back end of last year. Do you just advising people now just to get something down and get it out there? Because like you're saying, you can repurpose it in so many different ways.
If you were a bed and breakfast owner, I would not start a podcast. A podcast is for your most loyal fans. And it's not, I don't like the word fan because I don't want people to be below me, but it's for the most, like, I love Mark. I always appreciate Mark's opinions on bed and breakfasts. He's always bringing on great guests. I want more Mark. And so the thing I would think about for a bed and breakfast, especially right now, this is such a great time for bed and breakfast. Why? Because you're like, holy shit, I'm really dependent on this Airbnb website or VRBO or Facebook Marketplace. I'm very dependent on someone coming. And secondly, if airline, if there's another 9/11 in a different country or there's another virus, wow, I'm going to be impacted. So I think the opportunity right now is not about a podcast. It's more, how do I diversify my revenue within this sector? So if this happens again, I don't really care, right? And so you're like, well, what can I do as a bed and breakfast? So I don't think it's hosting a podcast yourself, but could you potentially host people who want to do podcasts in your area at your bed and breakfast? So maybe you don't do a podcast, but if you have anyone in your area, if you're in London, if you're in Houston, if you have extra space in your Airbnb or in your hotel, maybe you can use that space more creatively so that if no guests are coming, you can still have people that maybe are using it. Maybe you can have it as a YouTube recording studio. Hey, I know you're doing videos. Why don't you come over? We have a great place. I'll cook you lunch. And you can maybe mention you recorded this here. Hey, everyone, diversify your income because you're fucked. Thanks, asshole. Like, that's not helpful because I'm struggling right now. And so I said, hey, let me just show you live. And so in 1 hour, what I did is I just did 2 things. I posted in a few text groups, WhatsApp groups, and on my Facebook, does anyone need anything delivered in this area? That's one thing I posted. And then the second thing is I posted, does anyone need any gym equipment or bikes? Why did I post that? Because that's what I need. And I think the best way to start any side hustle is to try to figure out how to serve yourself first. And so I just posted, hey, does anyone need gym equipment? And people went crazy. Honestly, I was shocked because I think when most people are trying to diversify their income or start a side hustle, and I want to come back and explore if you have a property that's an Airbnb, like mine or yours, and yours is, I'm guessing, more empty than usual. What can we do about it? But let's start with the side hustle. So with the side hustle, what I did is I said, I didn't go out and this is where people get the number one mistake. Most people go out, buy stuff or build stuff and then say, let me go out and find customer. Let me go see if I can hopefully find a miracle. And what I like to do is say, let me find customers, because now that I have the money, delivering on that is easy. So it turned out that people were like, yo, give me gym equipment. And people, like probably 10 to 15 people immediately were asking for it. And I said, all right, which gym equipment are you looking for? I want this, I want that. And then I just tried a bunch of different ways to deliver on it. I called local gyms to see if they'd sell me their equipment. I called hotels. I called national distributors. Someone posted that their friend's friend has the equipment. And so I ended up buying $500 worth of gym equipment and I sold $620 worth.